Hey, it's Evan Prescott here with part 2 of our labour market analysis. There's something we have to address right away. The narrative that the economy is booming couldn't be further from the reality most Americans are experiencing. In the gilded world of certain talking points where tariffs magically don't fuel inflation and growth is unstoppable, everything looks rosy, but in the real world things are far more challenging. If you missed part 1, I'll recap it quickly in a lightning round. We've also had fresh data since then offering more insight into the labour market's softness, and of course the Federal Reserve's recent rate cut was widely expected. Most importantly, we're diving deeper into what comes next. Let's recap part 1. Recent data has highlighted ongoing volatility. Initial jobless claims have fluctuated with a recent spike to 236,000, higher than expected after a brief dip. Continuing claims have hovered around elevated levels. Job openings remain above 7 million, signalling persistent mismatches. On the private side, corporate layoffs through 2025 have been significantly higher than in previous years, driven by restructuring, closings, and emerging technologies like AI. There's growing consensus among economists that policies on immigration and trade have constrained hiring, shifting the baseline for net job gains lower and ending the era of robust monthly additions. Financial media often highlights that wage growth has outpaced inflation somewhat, suggesting resiliency and potential for GDP growth next year. But that's where we push back. These headlines don't capture the full health of the labour market or the real bite of inflation and costs. None of these figures fully measure everyday realities. The labour force participation rate for working-age adults remains around 62%, meaning a large share of the population isn't working, but still faces universal price pressures. Productivity is high among those employed, but many hold part-time gigs, multiple jobs, or precarious work. High productivity roles are increasingly vulnerable to automation and AI. The US economy is inextricably linked to labour market health, proof that costs are eroding purchasing power. Record household debt with credit card balances exceeding $1.2 trillion, all-time highs in delinquencies and rising defaults across loans. Growth and spending are increasingly driven by the top earners. The top 10% account for half of consumer spending. Key takeaways: only about 62% of working-age adults are in the labour force. Americans carry more debt than ever. Wealth concentration skews key ratios. Most crucially, if you're struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, worried about housing, cutting back, or deeper in debt, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. We need honest conversations, reject blame, and focus on policies that protect and future-proof workers. Today, we're keeping it focused, contextualizing labour, critiquing current thinking, and outlining a framework, especially for Democrats, to reimagine the future of work. Let's start with the Beveridge curve. It plots unemployment against job vacancies. Normally, high unemployment means low vacancies and vice versa. In a boom, plenty of openings and low unemployment. In downturns, the opposite. Named after William Beveridge, it recognizes frictional unemployment, people transitioning jobs or entering the workforce. Shifts outward signal mismatches, high unemployment alongside high vacancies. We're in that paradox now. Over 7 million openings, millions seeking work. Why no easy match? Types of mismatch. Skills. Openings require expertise. Job seekers lack. Geographic. Jobs in tech hubs. Workers elsewhere with barriers to relocation. Even perfect redistribution wouldn't eliminate unemployment entirely, but mismatches don't explain everything. Our definition of full employment, around 4% unemployment as a buffer against wage-driven inflation, is flawed. The Fed prioritizes slack to control wages. Millions more are excluded. Discouraged workers, those on disability, early retirees needing income, stay-at-home parents. If childcare were affordable, participation at 62% leaves 38% of adults out, invisible in models, hit hardest by costs without wage offsets. This administration prioritizes enriching insiders with little coherent industrial or labor policy beyond certain sectors. Repair isn't enough. We need reimagining. We've over-relied on the Fed's monetary tools. Rates and liquidity. Cuts stimulate borrowing and hiring hikes cool inflation. But it's blunt blanket changes, no targeting. The relationship between rates and employment has weakened. Low rates for years didn't prevent middle-class erosion or wage stagnation for most. The latest Fed meeting cut rates by 25 basis points, with mixed views on pace. Some pushed for more aggressive easing, others cautioned on inflation. The real move? Resuming Treasury purchases to address liquidity strains preemptively. But it doesn't fix root causes. Banks demanding premiums, tight credit not flowing to the real economy. We're in mild stagflation, cooling, but persistent costs softening labour, masked and exacerbated by trade and immigration policies, plus lingering post-pandemic distortions. The administration leans on tariffs for manufacturing revival, protectionism raising consumer prices, squeezing margins without reliably creating jobs. Deregulation and tax cuts for the wealthy haven't delivered broad prosperity. We're missing fiscal policy, strategic government spending for jobs, infrastructure, demand management, Keynesian precision over sledgehammers. We need a Copernican shift. Centre workers, not markets. We're in financialization, money making money, real economy secondary. Prioritise workers via massive fiscal intervention, a civilian labour corps, think New Deal scale, TVA, Hoover Dam, Apollo, employing millions, building lasting assets. Today, climate resilience, forests, grids, seawalls, and elder care, essential, non-profitable at scale for private markets, but creating meaningful jobs, reducing pressures elsewhere, non-inflationary. We've done it before. Post-depression investments fueled booms. Now AI and automation accelerate disruption, risking millions of jobs faster than markets adapt. Rethink, less Fed reliance, more direct fiscal action, public programs, progressive funding, true full employment as priority. Democrats must champion bold vision, guaranteed meaningful work for those who want it, contributing to common good. We have resources, people, need, only lacking will and ideology. That's the framework. Let's build an economy centered on workers. Catch you next time. By the way, a tearful confession from a former Trump voter. During a congressional hearing, I was duped. I was stupid. I made a mistake. That's what this Trump voter said. I regret my decision. This individual is a veteran who served our country in the Navy, including during the Gulf War. He is also a part-time minister. His name is Jim Brown. His wife, Donna Hughes Brown, originally from the UK and raised in Ireland, came to the United States legally as a child and has lived here for nearly 50 years as a green card holder. She was detained by ICE upon returning from a trip to Ireland in July 2025 due to old misdemeanor bad check charges from about a decade ago, totaling around $80, which had long been resolved. She has been held in a detention center in Kentucky for over 4 months, facing possible deportation. Reports describe harsh conditions, including retaliation and inadequate care for some detainees. Jim Brown has brought attention to his story, expressing deep regret for voting for Trump, believing the promises were about targeting serious criminals, not families like his. The first clip is from an earlier hearing where Jim Brown discussed his regret. Clip 1. Voted for President Trump. Yes, sir. Why did you vote for him? Because I was an idiot. 80% of the evangelical Christian people were lied to. If you really want to know the truth, that's exactly what happened. They said criminal, and I believe the criminals need to be off the street. I just want to make sure people watching this understand who you are. My wife and I, when we don't work, we're ministers. We help the needy. That's what we do. Now, the recent congressional hearing on December 11, 2025 featured DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Democratic Rep Seth Magaziner from Rhode Island confronted her directly, having Jim Brown stand up in the audience as part of highlighting cases involving veterans and military families. Clip 2 from the December 11th, 2025 hearing. Madam Secretary, the man behind you, please stand up, sir. His name is Jim Brown from Troy, Missouri. He is a Navy combat veteran who served our country in the Gulf War. He is married to a woman named Donna who came to our country legally from Ireland when she was 11 years old. She has lived here for 48 years. Because of you, Jim's wife, Donna, has been in detention for the last 4 months. She did not come here illegally, and she has never committed any crime other than writing 2 bad checks totaling $80 10 years ago. She's currently detained and facing deportation. Ms. Noem, will you thank Mr. Brown for his service to our country? Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your service to our country. Now, what possible explanation can there be for detaining his wife for 4 months when she has committed no crime other than writing a couple of bad checks for $80? So it is not my prerogative, my latitude, or my job to pick and choose which laws in this country get enforced. You have broad discretion as the Secretary. You can issue parole, you can do all kinds of things, but you're choosing not to. Will you commit to reviewing Donna's case and reuniting this combat veteran with his beloved wife, who also loves this country? I will review the case. In the hearing, Representative Magaziner emphasized that the Trump administration and Secretary Noem don't know how to tell the difference between serious threats and hard-working long-time residents. He highlighted multiple cases to humanize the impact, focusing on veterans and military families, noting that public attention can lead to change. He pointed out the administration's claims of targeting only the worst of the worst, while many affected have minor or no criminal records. Jim Brown has shared details of conditions in the detention center, including other detainees facing similar unjust treatment, such as a woman denied proper medical care or delayed hearings. He described retaliation, poor facilities, and his wife's struggles. Donna's next hearing is scheduled for December 18th, 2025. Secretary Noem has committed to reviewing her case following the hearing. Representative Magaziner has praised Jim Brown's courage in speaking out and encouraged others in similar situations to share their stories, noting that outreach to congressional offices can help elevate these issues. He stressed that storytelling and public pressure are key ways to push back against harsh enforcement policies in the current political environment.